Trusts. We hear about them in movies, we see them in popular literature. You might have even known a trust fund baby before. But what are they about? Who has them? Why do they have them? Today, I hope my guest can unpack this. My name is Jolly Mokorosi. Thank you for joining us on Wealth at Work, a show that focuses on wealth creation and education in South Africa. My guest today, Nompumelelo Mpumi Maesela, is an experienced business and finance leader with more than 15 years in investment strategy and corporate finance experience. She studied accounting, taxation, agriculture, and leadership, not just locally, but also in Spain and in Japan. But what I'm most jealous of and what I find most interesting is that she was actually a professional rugby player for the Sharks for 3 years. So welcome to the show, Mpumi Maesela. We're so happy to have you today. And right off the bat, I want to kick off with our number one question. What is wealth to you?
It's a very interesting question and very difficult to articulate. But for me, it's when you can live at ease and feel that your children's children would be able to live at ease as well, with all the basic necessities and the comforts of living without really struggling to put food on the plate and just be comfortable human beings. That's really basically what's wealth to me.
So one of the other things that always interests me is who influences your approach to wealth and who influenced it and why did they influence it?
It was my mother.
Okay, what did she say? What did she do?
No, so my mother, when we were growing up, I still have the shares up to now. When we were growing up, she bought me and my sisters Nestle. I think I have a Nestle, Unilever. I think we have about 5 stocks, which are the most common brands in your cupboard.
Okay.
And she basically used to say, don't eat it if you don't own it.
Wow.
So every time I'll be like, can I have an apple? And then I'll be thinking, do I need to own a farm? Like, it used to be really interesting conversations we have at home. But that shaped my thinking, and that has over time made me question everything I use around the house. Basically, I've tried to, over the years, buy each and every stock. So I have Vodacom, I own FNB, I have Richmond. I don't have a Richmond watch, but I have Richmond because I like the idea of expensive watches. But you can go and buy a Richmond and make me rich through the shares. So she'll always say, rather own the share of what you eat or what you use. That way, you are not only a consumer, but also you are participating in the economy in terms of getting dividends and interest and all of these things. At the time, when you are 9, when you are 13, you're thinking, oh, whatever, I don't know what is this about. But over time, you start understanding how important that is. Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible. And you touched on something, one of my favorite companies, obviously, and a lot of girls don't know it, is Richmond, because of the luxury goods. And there's something you said to me before you came on that really, I was like, yes, about the handbags, because obviously Louis Vuitton is part of that Richmond group.
It is. Rather own that Richmond share than the handbag. I actually don't own any Richmond luxury goods, but I'm happy to say I have shares in Richmond. I buy shares every time I have $500. I rather buy a share or a portion of it because it's that expensive than say I'm saving towards a Louis Vuitton. Then the others can go buy a Louis Vuitton and give me dividends at the back of that at the end of the year.
I really like that thinking. I really like I used to say to students, rather dress like you own the club, not like you're trying to get in for free. And it's nearly like a similar kind of concept. What do you wish Black people knew, particularly women, from what you saw in that private wealth environment? In the first and the second part really has to do with trusts, because you then were able to also later on flip some of that private wealth experience and further it into the area of trusts.
So basically, a lot of high net worth clients, they live as if they are in technical recession.
Interesting. Carry on.
So they live on very little. They are very calculative around their expenses. They will have things that they really like and that they will spend their monies on. Most of the time, whatever they've spent their monies on, it gives them a return on investment.
It's an asset. It's a real actual asset. And I think that's something that we fail to understand, that an asset is something that gives you a return. If it doesn't give you a return, it's not an asset.
Exactly. So they still like Richmond and they like all those luxury brands. The only difference with them and us is, one, they can afford it. Two, they recycle it. So they are able to actually go back to Khatia and return the watch. Yes, and return the watch for the most recent one. And those things you will never know unless you are buying 150,000 Rand watch or a 2 million Rand watch, that actually you can return your watch for a new watch at a store. We don't know those things. So and that means the previous watch was not necessarily, and sometimes the valuation has gone up on the previous piece for whatever reason. So they are very calculative around things that they like. They put themselves on technical recession, so they don't spend on, they are not excessive spenders. And they always want to see how their money works for them and not the other way around. They are very much calculative around fees, those small things that we don't pay attention to, like what is this R3.40 for? And you're thinking, you have a 27 million Rand balance, why are we paying attention to R3? But the R3 adds up. So they pay attention to the little things and to the little monies. They never take any cent for granted.
Something that was interesting for me to learn actually later on is when me and my husband went to do our will, they actually talked to us about trusts, which is obviously an area that you specialized in for a while, and the formation of trusts. At what point does it make sense for a person to have a trust?
When you have people you care about, that you would like to leave your assets behind for them safely without allowing them to be pulled out into your deceased estates. So when they are closing out your deceased estates, your trust will be included in your calculation, but your trust is ring-fenced. You can set up a trust such that it is independent of your estate, and therefore anything happens to you, all the assets and the valuables that have been bequeathed to the trust or have been transferred to the trust as part of the trust assets will not be then unwinded during the unwinding of your deceased estate. So it allows for that continuity. It creates stability for your loved ones when you pass on, because they don't have to worry about, oh my word, this house was already paid off and they are winding off your estate and now they need to sell the house to pay some debt that you also forgot about and you didn't know about, or it was something that you were not trying to not pay or anything like that.
So it just allows for, what you're basically saying is it allows for continuity of that wealth in the family. I know with us, we were told that it makes sense for us to start looking at a trust when we have about R1 million worth of assets, not debt. Because until you actually own your house, it's not an asset, but as we said earlier, but until you actually say, okay, on my balance sheet, I've got about R1 million worth of assets. What's your opinion on that?
Yes, so they're right. I mean, $1 million is actually might sound like a small amount of money for some of us, because we've dealt with billions of rands in transactions. But for a household, if you have put aside R1 million safely into part of the trust assets, basically that means that those funds are safely secured for your kids and for your kids' kids. And you can define the mandate of the trust to say you want the money to be used for living expenses and for education expenses, so you know that it won't be misused. And the executors that look after the trust themselves are not that expensive. They come in through the bank, so it's almost semi-equivalent to using a high net worth banker.
You've been an incredible guest, Mpumi. Thank you so much. Thank you for your insights and your gorgeous smile as well. I always enjoy it.
Awesome. All the best. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you for watching Wealth at Work. We look forward to sharing more stories with you and profiling other dynamic entrepreneurs and business people. Please like and share and leave a comment telling us what topics you'd like to see next. From me, Jolly Mokorosi, thank you and goodbye.